Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today here at Charlesbridge. We're so excited to be able to share our 2021 titles with you, and I hope you all had a wonderful Children's Book Week. First up, I just want to introduce my team today who's going to be joining me in this book buzz. So I'm going to start adding faces. First up, we have Katie Smith. Colette Perry's next. Now let's do serious introductions. First off, we have Katie Smith. She's our sales and marketing assistant. She handles awards, orders, and just keeps everything running smoothly. Next, we have Colette Perry, our marketing design associate. She handles all of our promotional pieces and needs as well as advertising and is the reason why we have such beautiful screens for StreamYard, frankly. After that, last but not least, is Mike Quinn, Vice President and Senior Sales and Marketing Director. How is everyone doing today?
I'm doing great, Hannah. Thanks so much for having us.
Of course. Thanks for joining me.
You guys, I am so excited to be able to be in the same room and talk books with you all. I miss it so much.
It feels good. It feels really good. Okay. Don't forget, we have a giveaway going, so please feel free to check out the description box. We also have a link to our sell sheet, so you can follow along with the titles there and just see what we're talking about in greater detail. But yeah, why don't we get started? Katie, would you like to kick us off?
Sure. So we have two new additions to the spin-off series Baby Loves Political Science by Ruth Spiro coming up. And I just love these books. Greg Paprocki's bright and cheerful illustrations just sort of make my day whenever I get to pick up one of these books. First up, we have Baby Loves Congress. Baby learns that, like at daycare, grown-ups have rules too, and those rules are called laws, and they're made by Congress. And the illustrations are just so sweet and fun.
Solo for a sec. There you go.
And then we have Baby Loves Political Science, the Presidency. Baby learns that running a country takes teamwork, just like Papa's food pantry team, which is super adorable. And I love that we have a woman president in these illustrations. Mm-hmm. So sweet and fun. And then I love how these titles are just great reads for babies and their grown-ups, even with more complicated concepts. And that's why I'm really excited that we're expanding the series to include holidays too. First up is Baby Loves Baby Loves Electrical Engineering on Christmas. Baby discovers the science behind Christmas lights. Accurate enough to satisfy experts, yet simple enough for baby, this clever board book explores electricity, circuits, and electrical safety. And then next up is Baby Loves Angular Momentum on Hanukkah. Baby explores the science behind spinning a dreidel on Hanukkah. This easy-to-understand board book explores angular momentum, torque, friction, and gravity. And the illustrations are just so cute.
Does anybody else feel like the Baby Love series is just going in any direction possible? And I am here for it, you guys. You know, ever since we started the Baby Love Science series, I keep going, where was this when I was in insert whatever grade level you'd like accordingly, right? So from Baby Loves Quantum Physics, now to Baby Loves the Presidency, to Baby Loves Electrical Engineering on Christmas. I think Ruth and her just bevy of really talented illustrators on this entire series are just so wonderful, and they continue to be able to give you that age-appropriate science where we can all learn something, right?
Absolutely. They're beautiful, and they're very, I would say too, if you're looking for a gag gift for the engineer in your life, these are a great pick.
This is literally what I did though. Oh my God. My cousin and his wife, their baby just came yesterday, baby Owen.
Owen.
We're very, very excited. But he's a computer engineer and she's a librarian. So I gave them Baby Loves Democracy as part of their baby shower gifts.
That's wonderful. Really perfect for every age.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Absolutely.
All right, let me tell you a little more about storytelling math editions we have coming up. I feel like at this point, everyone has a good idea about storytelling math, but let's talk about our 3 new picture book editions. First up is Bracelets for Venus Brothers. This just published in April, and it's really cute. This is by Rajani Laraka. For the Hindu holiday of Raksha Bandhan, Beena is determined to make beaded bracelets for her brothers all by herself, but it's a little harder than she thought since each of her brothers have their own different favorite color and hobby. This picture book is all about patterns and creative problem solving, and I really love how Rajani captured sibling relationships so well, where even though your siblings can bother you, you still love them. Each brother has a silly nickname for Beena, which really brought me back to growing up with my sister. And I will say they have very cute nicknames. I don't know if everyone always has cute sibling nicknames, right? So that was a very nice touch. Rajani and our editor, Karen, also discussed this title for Children's Book Week, actually. So make sure you check out that video on our channel after the stream. Next up, we have Usha and the Big Digger. I'm going to share my screen again. So number one, look at this absolutely stunning cover. I love this story. This is another one that focuses on sibling relationships, but Usha and Artie are sisters, and even though they both have different interests, they both still love each other very, very much. Usha really wants to learn how to do a cartwheel, but Artie is distracted by looking at stars in the sky. So she can see the Big Dipper, but for some reason, Usha, who's obsessed with trucks, sees the Big Digger instead. And when their cousin Gloria comes to visit, she sees the Big Kite. This is a very cute starter on geometry and spatial relationships and features Indian American characters and a note about cultures and constellations. Really getting the full package here for this part of the Storytelling Math series. I just love the way the kids are shaped, especially as you can see with Usha trying to figure out how to do a cartwheel, and she can't do it quite yet. She just kind of flops and crashes. But spoiler alert, by the end of the book, she does learn how to do it. Something else I really love about this story too is that it's kind of a nice way to show that even in something that seems really strict like geometry, there's a way to get multiple answers and do a lot of creative problem solving. So it shows a little bit of the STEAM aspect in STEM, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Can we talk about? Go ahead, Colette.
Oh no, I was just going to say, I think both of these titles also really get at the one of the other things that I love about the Storytelling Math books, which is that so many of them have to do with resolving conflicts between siblings. Like there's Leah and Luis, which when did that one come out? It was part of our first
fall, actually. Yeah.
Yep, our first little cohort of Storytelling Math books, and that was also about a sibling quarrel, right? So, yeah, I think it's really sweet that it's these are useful concepts for day-to-day life, right?
Mm-hmm, absolutely. Again, I think even if you don't have siblings, you can very much relate to the struggle of sometimes having somebody who's close in age to you and you just kind of want it to go your own way. But again, super duper cute, beautiful illustrations. To go further into the family element, next up is Look Grandma, Me Elise. This is by Art Coulson. This is also out in August too. And Bo wants to find the perfect container to show off his traditional marbles for the Cherokee National Holiday. It needs to be just the right size, big enough to fit all the marbles, but not too big so it can fit in his family's booth at the festival. It also needs to look good. I love this. It's a very sweet guide to volume and capacity. It features native characters and has a glossary of Cherokee words. I also really love how Bo's grandmother throughout the book shows that he can have his own agency to find the right answer, but she's always there to help out too. Showing off some cute pictures. But yeah, again, there she is, ready, ready for action. Something that I really enjoy about the Storytelling Math series is that we are giving kids agency. And that's always just kind of a great thing to see, especially in picture books. It's not just about learning the basics of math, but it's also putting in those social emotional learning elements too. So you can kind of work with yourself to get independence. I like that a lot.
I love that addition. And to Colette's point about sort of early arguments happening with kids, I love that Luna, one of our other Storytelling Math books, is all about dividing up leftover dim sum to see what's fair. And I just think so many early math discoveries are about fairness and sort of how you see things. So I love that.
Yeah, kids have such a keen sense of justice and fairness. It's like, no, if something's not fair, the kid will tell you.
It's
what's really, really great about the series too, you guys, is I feel like it takes kind of some of the predisposed notions about what picture books and what math should be in that really like early learner, early reader, insert your really grades, anywhere from preschool to grades like 2 to 3, what you should know about these things. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that one of the math experts that we worked with to start the series said very early on, everybody's a math thinker, right? And I went, well, I don't know if I buy into that, but she's right. Everybody is a mathematical thinker to start. And one of the great things about storytelling math is they take all of these everyday occurrences where you don't even realize, kid or you're grown up, that you're doing math and you're already really great at it. And so all of these titles we're talking about and all the beautiful art we just saw helps kind of just re-solidify that and amplify, yeah, you are already a really great math thinker. And instead of thinking math as a scary thing, why don't we embrace that you're already great at it? You know, and I think I love the tagline for this series too, and I say it any chance I get. Storytelling math celebrates diversity, math, and the power of the story. All right, how can we go wrong?
There you go. Absolutely. I think you're up next, Meg.
Oh my goodness, am I? And am I going to talk about Froggies next?
Yes, you are.
All right. So we're going to go from all of those great, really quintessential Charlesbridge nonfiction. You're going to learn something every single page, right? To The Froggies Do Not Want to Sleep, which is pretty much, I would say, that quintessential ready-made bedtime story when the quiet book or a simple rhyme just won't cut it. The Froggies Do Not Want to Sleep is that perfect go-to for when you need to get the wiggles and the giggles and the squiggles out, because the Froggies, shockingly, based on the title, do not want to go to sleep. They're not ready yet. They want to do things like joust with aliens, shoot out of cannons, have burping contests, do underwater ballet, right? Do anything you possibly can to get all of that energy out until you crash to sleep. All right, this is Adam Gustafsson, who we've worked with a lot previously, but this is his debut as wearing both this author and illustrator hat. And you guys, this is just perfect. It's very simple, very sweet text, spark with some really raucous illustrations, and you go from high energy all the way to slowly just getting back to sleep and climbing into bed. Spoiler alert, the Froggies do eventually tire themselves out and go to sleep.
Thank goodness. What I really loved about it is that bedtime books, there's no reason why they can't be imaginative, but it takes this concept where you can also feel from the side of a caretaker where you're like, oh, I really just need you to rest. There has to be a way for you to go to bed. So I really love that balance of it being fun and silly and a little exasperated. You can kind of hear it, but definitely a super cute read. And those frogs are very precious.
You know what? I'm going to tell you too, as a new mom and whose daughter already has her favorite books that now we can recite by heart, Froggies has something too to look at from page to page. There's always something new I see in the illustrations every time I look at it, which is really lovely when you know you're going to be coming back to a favorite 10,001 times.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
100%. Yeah.
The energy in these reminds me of the mental gymnastics that my brain does when I'm having insomnia and I'm trying to go to sleep.
You're like, oh yeah.
That's a really, really good way to put that, Kate.
Gotta count the frogs.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I remember when I first read this book, when the PDF went up on our server, I was so excited. It just, I don't know, it had that real rhythm to it when I was reading it. It reminded me a lot of all of those sort of classic picture books that I read when I was a little kid.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. My mom was a huge picture book aficionado, so we just had dozens and dozens of picture books, some that she'd kept from her childhood and some that she'd picked up along the way. But it just reminds me a lot of I don't know if any of you ever read Piggies by Audrey and Dawn Wood when you were kids.
Yep.
Yes.
It reminds me a lot of that sort of era of picture books, these really sort of rich, detailed illustrations. This is a very, it's a very sort of classically flavored storybook, right?
Yep. It could be a new classic for sure. It's going to be in heavy rotation, I have faith, in a lot of bedtime routines.
Absolutely. All right, Colette, do you want to talk a little bit about We Laugh Alike?
Absolutely. Oh my God.
So, she's ready.
This is, now remind me again, this one just came out recently, yes?
Yep.
We Laugh Alike, Juntos Nos Reímos.
Mm-hmm.
Yep,
You're
by
right.
Carmen T. Bernier-Grand, illustrated by Alyssa Bermudez. This story, I absolutely love it because it tells of something that actually happens a lot in real life, but I don't think I've ever seen it in a picture book. What happens when you get to the playground and let's see. Right. What happens when you get to a playground and the other kids there don't speak the same language, right? So as you can see, we have two groups, 3 friends each. One of them speaks English, one of them speaks Spanish. And at first they're a little nervous. They don't quite know how to handle this. They sort of listen to the other group speak among themselves, and they're sort of figuring out how to play together and to work out what's going on. But eventually, they work out ways to have fun together in order to play and sing together. And it's a really sweet story, and I think it gets a lot at what actually happens when you have kids encounter a language barrier in the wild, right? Is they find ways to work around it and to play together anyway.
It's more the language of play. That's universal.
Yeah, absolutely. Games and music and dance also are, and sort of the simple power of a smile and of laughter, right? Because that's universal.
That was a very sweet way to put it. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, absolutely. So the author Carmen T. Bernier-Grand grew up speaking Spanish, and the narrative itself sort of it starts with the English and the Spanish very separated on the page, but as the two groups of kids come together, the narrative starts to blend the English and Spanish lines until at the end it's just all one text, which I think is also really sweet and really sort of gets at the core of what this story is trying to say.
Absolutely.
I mean, talk about a great visual element too, right? Because this is really early text, right? It is, again, it's your pre-readers through your really early elementary schoolers. So it doesn't matter if you are English is your first or second language here. Like the vocabulary level is the same, and you see the very simple text and the visual cues, right? That the words, even if you don't understand and can't read them to yourselves, are coming together. I just love that. I love that we've married the text and the art to capture that really, really great universal message.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yep. Yeah. I also want to take a moment because, I mean, as a designer, one of the things that I notice first about a book is the art. I just really want to take a moment to highlight Alyssa Bermudez's illustrations because they just are so gorgeous. You know, they're digital art. They have this beautiful texture and color to them, and I think they really play very well together, so to speak, with the text, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love the power of the gutter there as like they are holding on to the rope and it's crossing over. I feel like that's really cool to show them coming together.
Yep, absolutely.
It's joyful. I think that was the first word I thought of when I read it. It was just joyful. There's a lot of like great emotion to it.
Yeah, it's just very buoyant, and it's like, okay, there's a barrier here, but we're not going to like let that color this interaction in a negative or like a strained way, right? It's just like, you know, this is an issue where we're going to come at it with good cheer and humor, and we're gonna work out.
You know, they don't even think of it as an issue too. Isn't that the great part? It's like, oh, we can't communicate this way. Well, so then we'll just do it a different way. There's no like, this is a problem we're going to solve. It's just, how do we play together?
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I think it's worth pointing out too, just for those that are listening in here and are looking at, oh, this is a great bilingual book. This is actually not a traditional bilingual, and it's not a word for word translation, which I love too, right? It's conversational translation. So it's the English and the Spanish are accurate to how you would say things in the conversation, in the tone of the text, without being a word for word, one-to-one translation, which I appreciate 1,000%.
Yeah, it's a little more idiomatic, right?
That's the perfect word for Colette.
Mm.
I also love, Colette, that you chose that one because the author's from Portland or lives in Portland, and so you used to too. So that's really cool. I thought of that.
Making connections. Yeah.
Love
Funny
it.
story about that, actually. And
Oh.
sometimes I'm a little awkward about saying this because I don't want people to think that all people from Portland know each other. It's a big place, but I actually have known Carmen Bernier-Grand since I was quite young.
Oh my goodness.
I love it.
I love
it.
this fun fact.
Yes, she's a wonderful person. She's just, I mean, she's very, I think her sort of buoyant spirit, I think, really comes through in this story.
That's lovely. Oh, nice. We're going to have to clip this and send it to her, Colette. You know that, right?
Hi, Carmen.
Oh, perfect. Okay. I feel like we have another great lead then. Do you want to talk about Seaside Stroll, Katie?
Sure. So this is Seaside Stroll. It's written by Charles Trevino and illustrated by Maribel Lechuga, who you will find out through this live stream. I'm obsessed with her. But the illustrations are so sweet and adorable. It's just a stunning and simple study of alliteration with the letter S. Let's see if I can successfully flip to a page here that I've tried to mark out.
Ooh, can you do the one with the birds?
Oh,
the one with the birds is my very favorite spread in this book.
Let me just one moment here.
Sorry, I'm going to make you page through this entire
No,
book.
you're good. I was trying to you need to pick a new spread because you already picked the birds one early, like for a different thing. So I didn't, but we're getting there. 1 second. Hello, everyone.
You can't go wrong with the classics. There you go.
This is, I feel like I can't see if you can see my full spread.
Yep, you can see.
Yeah, we got it.
I love it so much. The way that Charles Trevino plays with the letter S is just so simple. And like, actually, when I first read it, I didn't even realize that it was all the letter S because it was so naturally put that I had to like go back and be like, oh yeah, that is what this is doing, just because it didn't feel forced. And I love that. Yeah.
This is a very sweet book. When Katie says that she's obsessed with Maribel, we're all obsessed with Maribel.
Same hat.
Yeah, we'll be chatting about her again. But this was such a good marriage of really soft text. And of course, the S sound is just like, I would say this is a great book, not just for like winter at the seaside. It's a really good bedtime book. It's a good like comfort read. It ends too with mom and daughter after a long day, just like snuggled up next to each other on the couch. Everything about it is just very sweet and soft. Makes you feel good. So that's something that I have very much loved about that book.
Well, and I mean, as somebody who's a native New Englander and loves the beach, like I am always up for a good, lovely beach read and a beach theme, right? And I've never seen one like this, particularly for this age level, that's set in the winter. Like, you know, we all talk about summering or vacationing at the beach, right? But this is, the Seaside Stroll happens when, you know, the weather has started to turn cold. And I think that's one of those things too, where I went, well, this is just such a clever take, and it's a really cool concept because there's still so much that happens, but we don't always highlight it.
Absolutely.
I think the power of it being like a cold, wintry read at the beach is that it's quieter too, which like they get to discover things they may not see otherwise.
Yeah,
yep.
absolutely.
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
And it makes that snuggle at the end, right, with mom and the little girl just so much sweeter. Like, it's just so much warmer that way.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I'm going to wear my Oregon hat here again. We were going to the beach all the time. It was just sort of the quintessential thing that we did when I was growing up. And I mean, even during the summer in Oregon, it rarely gets very warm at the beach.
So this felt very accurate to life for
yeah, absolutely. I just always had that association of like a cold, rainy day when you bundle up in a jacket and go on like a nice long beach walk and you look at the tide pools. And yeah, it's just, I don't know, the idea of a beach is like a hot place where you sit out in the sun and you swim, not really accurate to my beach experience. And I don't think very accurate to many people's beach experiences. So I think this is a great read for folks who like aren't necessarily in the California, Florida sort of model of beaches.
I love that you think Boston is warmer, by the way. This is just fabulous.
It's the first time I ever slept in the ocean, swam in the ocean was in Boston.
Oh my gosh, too funny. Too funny.
Yeah.
Well, I have another very sweet read. This one, I would say, is not weather related, but it is sleep related, which I think is everyone's favorite. This is The Baby's Asleep by Janae Brown Wood. I will say you can see that I've marked quite a few pages that I love in here, so apologies in advance. So this is a great story for ages 2 to 5, and it's on sale early June. The baby's taking an afternoon nap, but everyone in the house, from grandpa to the family dog, can't help but make noise. Even with their best efforts, the baby wakes up and she is not happy. But one older brother knows just the way to make his sister fall back asleep: by reading a good book to her. Something that's very appropriate, I think, for Children's Book Week, certainly. This is also a wonderful example of onomatopoeia. The amount of times I've had to say that, truly, to get it even close to right, has been pretty intense. But
brave, Hannah, you're really brave.
Thank you, thank you. But you can see this honestly with these illustrations that are so dramatic, so fun, and really captures the feeling of a sad baby. I love this book. I just think it's so sweet. The text is simple, but it hits all of those elements that you can also see in Grandma's Tiny House, which is also from Janae. She is a professor and focuses on early literacy. So if you want to learn more too about her inspiration behind this and her process, definitely, again, we have another video up for Children's Book Week with her and her editor, Julie, discussing the importance of early literacy. So definitely check that out after the stream. But she really captures the tone as well as we go through each family member and then end it with, what are we gonna do? Everyone's so upset that the baby just didn't want to stay asleep. Not her fault, but it ends on a happy note with the older brother taking over. There's just something about it that's really joyful, super sweet. I also love that it's an intergenerational story as well. We have grandma, grandpa, mom, dad, all of the brothers, the family dog. It's really just a great opportunity to kind of see a big family at work. And I just love that. Again, it's, how do I put this? It's a cozy read, even though it's about something loud. So a lot of great elements there.
Yeah.
I love it. I think the I've been trying to think about how to phrase this, but like the energy of the illustrations sort of give me like Napping House vibes, because everything's just sort of like tilted, but in like this amazing way. I just love that.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely. I think Alyssa Mbura's art really sort of nails the sort of buzz that's going on in the house, right? Because I mean, in a big house with an intergenerational family like that, there really is no one moment of quiet. There's always something happening in some room or another.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. All right. Meg, do you want to chat about 10 Beautiful Things? Because we're not done talking about Maribel.
I always want to talk about 10 Beautiful Things because I have 10,000 reasons I love this particular title. So 10 Beautiful Things. I'm going to get, by the way, you guys, that videos happen in reverse in COVID, and I will get there. But 10 Beautiful Things is this tear-jerking, beautiful story about finding beauty kind of wherever you are. So we're going to meet Graham and Lily, and there's going to be this implication that something's happened in Lily's life. And so she and Graham are setting off to kind of for a new normal. She's going to go live with Graham, and along the way on this epic road trip, Graham decrees, we're going to find 10 beautiful things. Now, Lily, who's, feeling all the feels, honestly, she's got some big emotions going on and some big lessons. She's trying to be brave, and she's trying to embrace it and figure out what beautiful versus pretty is, right? Too. So every 10 beautiful things from Iowa all the way, or from in the Midwest all the way to Iowa to Grandma's new farmhouse, they're going to find things like a beautiful sunrise, a perfect summer storm, and then finally the 10th beautiful thing, you guys, the 10th beautiful thing is Graham and Lily, right? As Graham and Lily, as they embrace their new life together. All right.
There's something sweeter.
I know, right? So this is Molly Beth Griffin and Maribel Luchega, who you've heard us talk about Maribel a lot. This has got, you guys, 4 stars, right? 4 stars and counting.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody is loving 10 Beautiful Things, and I can't tell you, I don't think I've met a person yet that I said, oh, have you seen the new Charlesbridge list? 10 Beautiful Things. 10 Beautiful Things, by the way, is the way to start.
I got this book for my mom for Valentine's Day, and she was just like, I love it so much. Like, she loves the illustrations. She's obsessed. She wanted to like get copies for everyone she knows, and I was like, wow, that's a lot.
That's a lot. That's wonderful. It is, honestly, there's so many different elements to it, and it's not a hopeless book. It absolutely starts at a place where, I think we all have been, especially right now during the pandemic. Grief is kind of a natural part of life anyway, and now it's sort of tenfold. So having Lily go through this journey and the way Mirabelle's illustrations mirror Molly's text, where she's going through this process and then it ends with like the sun clearing up and Graham holding her, it really kind of brings you to that emotional climax without feeling like it's rushed.
Yeah.
You know, it's hard to do that in 32 pages, I think, but she really nails it.
You know what's lovely too is the variety of the 10 Beautiful Things. And, you know, I mentioned kind of when we're just giving the intro to 10 Beautiful Things, like there's beautiful and then there's pretty, right? And so Graham really has this concept laid out as she's got this little girl in the back seat that's trying to figure out kind of what she's feeling and what she's thinking and what the next steps are. And, you know, they talk about things like this broken down, dilapidated barn. And Lily says at one point, that's not pretty. And Graham's like, you're right, but it's beautiful. I mean, think about that. Think about having that conversation for somebody so small. Mm-hmm. You know, they talk about things that hit all of the senses too. There's this sweet kind of interesting smell of mud at one point. It's a lot of things for a lot of kids to think about. I think the other thing too about this kind of picture book is it's deceptively simple, right? There's this, okay, we're going to find 10 beautiful things, but there's so many additional layers. It's a wonderful story. It's a wonderful read aloud, but there are all these SEL components to it too, right? Where it's just these soft introductions to these really big concepts and these discussion starters, all through the help of Lily and her expressing her own emotions.
Absolutely.
Couldn't agree more. And I think also to bounce off of your earlier point about the distinction between pretty and beautiful, I think that's really, for me, one of the things that I find a little hard to communicate about this book is that it's a heartwarming story, but it's not like saccharine, right? It doesn't sort of drip sweetness. It's got, you know, complexity to it. And I think that pretty versus beautiful distinction is really what sort of gets at it, right? Because it's not just about, you know, oh, we're in a beautiful place. It's like, no, we're in a place that's complicated and interesting and has broken down parts, but how do we find the beauty in it?
Yeah, I just love the way that it mirrors whatever like journey Lily's going through personally. And I love that it's ambiguous too, because then I think a lot of people can relate to it in a way they may not be able to if it wasn't.
Absolutely. Molly and her editor, Yolanda, again, another video plug, but they really went into the deeper discussion too of what makes that resonate with people. I think right now, especially whether you're stuck at home, whether you're with kids or whether you're not, if you have family close by or not, there's kind of a lot that everyone's going through. And I feel like the greater emotion behind the story really captures the idea that there is sort of a light at the end of the tunnel. You just kind of have to count your blessings as you get them. But definitely, again, check that out. It was a really beautiful discussion, and I think can definitely resonate with a lot of people right now, whether you're alone at home or with partners. It just has, you know, its own feelings. We're all going through it, right? Okay. Colette, do you want to chat a little bit about Branches of Hope?
Absolutely. So this next title is Branches of Hope, The 9/11 Survivor Tree by Anne McGee and Nicole Wong. It's actually coming out in just a couple of weeks, May 18th. And I think it's honestly one of the more well-timed books that we've put out recently because this year marks the 20th anniversary of 9/11. So this is, I would call it I'm trying to remember the exact quote because we had a really good quote from someone about it, but it's a very sort of gentle and sort of life-affirming way to introduce the youngest readers to sort of the tragedy of what happened on 9/11, sort of focusing on, not glossing over the sadness of what happened, but really making room for the light in a dark time. And I just sort of, to visually underscore that somewhat sappy cliche, I'm just going to show this beautiful illustration by Nicole Wong of the actual survivor tree, which was a young pear tree that was found in the rubble on Ground Zero. Yeah. So the book starts in this very sort of plain language, bright sun streaming down onto the New York City streets. It was an ordinary day, and then the unthinkable happened. And then as throughout the book, the first responders clean up the site at Ground Zero, they recover the tree, and they send it off to a garden center where it recovers and it grows and it heals. And a decade later, it gets planted at the memorial site at Ground Zero. And throughout the book, just going to take another moment to show this illustration. Sort of frame it so you can get the full spread. Here we go.
There you go.
Yep. And I'm just going to call your attention really quick to this young woman right here. As the book sort of goes through this very factual account of what happened and sort of the broader scope, we also see throughout the book the growth of this little girl who eventually becomes the young woman at the end. As you can see right here in this end paper illustration, this is a young New Yorker family. This is the same little girl. And this is her uncle, who's a firefighter. And he later is a first responder in the book. And so by the very end of the book, we see the girl growing up through the seasons and through the years until eventually she becomes a firefighter, just like her uncle. Yeah.
There's a lot of layers to this story. And I don't know, I feel like the conversation that we have surrounding 9/11 is always, do you remember where you were? I also think that depends too on age. There's a wonderful note in the back from the author that goes over the concept of it and how it is traumatizing and terrifying, but also that it's an event that, again, affects everyone in the same way, but everyone has a very different memory of it. So I really loved this concept where, again, super serious topic, but there isn't, there's a feeling of hope at the end. Corny to say it because it's in the title, right? But that is very, a little bit. I can't help it. I'm a little corny. But it's one of those things that really captures the essence of, like, there is life among the rubble, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I remember when I was in my senior year of high school, all of our teachers got a little weepy on the anniversary of 9/11 because we were the last age cohort that had any living memory of that day, right? We were all in kindergarten when it happened. We were 4 and 5 years old. So that was sort of a very emotionally weighted moment for them, right? Was that going forward, their students wouldn't have those personal memories.
Mm-hmm.
That's a really great point, Colette, too, because there is this, 9/11 is this moment in history where we will all be talking about it, whether or not you remember it and you were alive for it, or if you were a child that was born after the fact, but you still need to know about these things. And so I always think about Jewel Parker Rhodes' middle grade, I think, chapter book at this point with Towers Falling, where it's all about, how do you teach kids that particular age what 9/11 was like after the fact. Right, when they have no existing connection to it. And I think this is a really great introduction on the picture book level, where this is that very important event. So many people have so many emotional memories to it and will forever be part of the American existence. And now we can have that conversation through the guise of, look at this rebirth and this regrowth through the branches of hope of the survivor tree. And this is what we're all talking about, right?
Absolutely. And I think it's really well timed to be talking about this one right after we talk about 10 Beautiful Things, right? Because I think if there's anything that this year has taught us, it's that it's in the world we live in, it's almost impossible to completely insulate children, and especially very young children, from what's going on, right? We live in a very media saturated world. So there's really no shielding kids from some kinds of tragedy, right? So then the question becomes, how do you talk about that in a way that's not like crushing to the spirit?
Yeah, that's a really good way to put it. Because it's not like kids aren't experiencing these things. It's not like they're not feeling these emotions, but they might not have the language or the understanding to really address it. So that's a really wonderful way to put it, Colette. All right. Katie, I think you're up next. You want to talk about 1,000 White Butterflies?
Yes, I do. Actually, I think this is an interesting transition too from Branches of Hope, because I think a lot of sort of hate came out of 9/11. So it's interesting to see 1,000 White Butterflies come next, which deals with this amazing story of this little girl who has come from Colombia, and she's sort of scared about what her new home is going to be like in the US, but then she finds that friendship is easier than she thought it was going to be. So I think there's an amazing connection there sort of in our lineup. But it's written by Jessica Betancourt Perez and Karen Lynn Williams, and it has beautiful, just fun, moving illustrations by Gina Maldonado. And I just love like the little expressions in this one. Just like they're just so simple, but just the way that they hold their mouths, you can see so much in the illustrations. It's so fun. I love that she makes a new friend named Katie, who is me, but I'm Katie. And then it's just so easy for them to connect. I think that that's just an important thing to show kids.
Mm-hmm.
I know we were very excited to have a Katie. We loved the way that matched up. Yeah, I'm a sucker for like friendship books, honestly, and I really feel like that was captured so well. To the same point as We Laugh Alike too, the idea is that you don't need to speak the same language to have fun, especially with, sorry, I'm losing my language a little bit here. Speaking of language, especially the idea that even if you're sad or missing someone, sometimes the best thing you can do is to reach out. And I really love those elements in this story compared to with those like, there's so much emotion. They're almost geometric in shape, those illustrations, but there's a lot of color and vibrancy and a lot of play. And I think it just all marries together so beautifully.
Yeah.
Can we just talk about too, like how fun and clever it is that Isabel's first day of school is a snow day. Like it's not the traditional August, September start date because she's starting in the middle of the year in a totally new climate and a totally new place. Now she's experiencing a snow day, and just the fun and the excitement and that whole new ordeal. I mean, you guys, I know we have a lot more than the average person for snow days in terms of where we live in the Northeast, but snow days are exciting no matter what time of year it is.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, as a Californian, I get overly excited every time. So.
For sure.
Fun.
And
it's
I think
still fun.
Yeah. I also think that this title really does a good job of addressing for small children some of the complexities that can arise when you immigrate to the United States, right? I mean, part of why this main character is a little nervous about starting school is that her mother and her abuela are with her in the US, but her father is still waiting for permission and paperwork to join them, right? So in addition to starting over all new in a place with a new language, there's this sort of tension because her family is a little divided, right?
Mm-hmm. And the author actually has a personal connection to that because when she came to the US, her father was still in Colombia. So really cool connection.
Talking about writing from what you know.
Absolutely. Okay, to talk more about found family and found friends, I'm going to kick us off with one of my favorites for our fall season.
I was so curious how you were going to transition from where we are now to where we're going next.
What can I say?
Impressive. A+, Hannah.
Thank you. So this is Invasion of the Unicorns by David Bedricki. This title is great for ages 4 through 8, and it's out in October. You might have seen it if you follow us on socials. We plugged it for National Unicorn Day the other day. I'm sure everybody enjoyed that. So this is about Special Agent 007, who's right on the cover there, and he is undercover and plotting a cute hostile takeover. His mission is to decide whether his team of alien unicorns should invade Earth. Posing as a stuffed animal, he infiltrates the home of Earthling Daughter, where he puts up with dog slobber, tea parties, and show and tell. You can tell I'm so excited for this title. Part of that is because I am a bit of a unicorn fanatic myself. I was really excited to have something that was just made for me. No, felt like it was just made for me on this list. But also, Dave Bedricki has been with Charlesbridge for a minute, right? I think this is actually with his editor, Alyssa. They've been working together for 10 years. 10 years. Isn't that amazing? But you will know him from Sumo Kitty, from his Bear Alert series. There's always something really silly and playful, but a lot of heart. And I think that Invasion of the Unicorns captures that so well, the pinnacle of it. You can see the unicorn starts in this kind of black and white and gray world. And as he starts to really experience what life is like on Earth, more and more color comes to the picture until at the end of it, he goes, huh, okay, Earth might not be so bad. There might be some great stuff for me here. And maybe humans aren't just meant to be like our servants. Maybe instead it should be a great place to take a vacation, hang out, try some peanut butter cookies, which end up being his favorite food. But yeah, it's really just such an adorable, precious way to bring in imagination and found family into one book. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to take a moment to note here that I think David Bedricki is sort of the master of comedy that arises from this sort of tonal mismatch, right? So you've got this incredibly fluffy, cute, appealing unicorn, and then the texting tone is this very like hard-boiled war correspondent, dear fearless leader. I have successfully infiltrated the Earthling household.
Truly, it's so funny. I was laughing out loud.
Absolutely.
And I love too the use of color here too, and how it starts sparingly, right? Because you think unicorns, and maybe Hannah, I'm just trained because I've worked with you long enough, but I think rainbows and colors and glitter, and that's not what you get from the start with this one. You get the very tonal, to use your words, black and white and gray, and it's as he warms up to the Earthling ability, as it were, and the our certain attractiveness, I suppose, that you start to see more of those colors and that glitter coming into light. And by the way, can we talk about the fact that there will be a glitter element to this cover? Just saying.
So excited. Too excited even. Yeah, this is another one. I loved this video too. I sat in with Dave and Alyssa, again, Children's Book Week. And just hearing them talk about the process for making a picture book that's not just a picture book, but has a lot of great graphic novel elements too. I think what really makes this special, especially in Dave's style, is that the text is sparing, but you're getting two different stories, to Colette's point. So you're seeing a lot of that background of the unicorn trying to make his way through daily life and just survive the trials and tribulations of ending up in the washing machine. And but on top of it, you can still feel like the movement of the story. There's so much happening. There's a little spoiler at the end too, because even though the unicorns might have decided to leave Earth alone, that doesn't mean there's not other shockingly stuffed animal looking friends out in space. So it's just a really, really cute way to introduce, I would even say, the concept of graphic novels to younger readers. Really some fun elements there.
Mm-hmm.
I love the Toy Story vibes too. It's really great.
With the claw, so good.
That was something that I really enjoyed when I was editing that video, Hannah, was that he talks a little bit about his inspiration and it comes a lot from his love of claw machines. And I think the actual unicorn in the book is inspired by a physical unicorn that he actually won from a claw machine.
Which you can see in that video. It is just as cute. Just as cute as the book.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah. I love any picture book that does what this one is doing with color. Like Bear Came Along a few years ago. I just think there's such like emotional weight in introducing it slowly. I love that so much.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes, definitely. And you can feel it. You can absolutely feel it. Okay. Meg, do you want to talk about Circle Round?
I would love to talk about Circle Round, and I want to talk about it for so many reasons. And thank you, Hannah, for the spreads. I'm so excited for this coming out in October. So we don't quite have the final advances for me to hold up yet, which is probably okay because, as we can see, my coordination, not always 100%, but that's all right. Circle Round is actually the latest from I'm New Here and Someone New author Annie O'Brien, and it's advocating for inclusion with kind words, soft art, and really just this wonderful theme that, at least in my mind, should be integral in all children's books these days. So this one's actually pretty perfect for pre-readers. So it's ages 3 to 6. And we count along as 1 ball bounces, 2 wheels roll, 3 hula hoops spin, and you get the idea. And really a growing group of kids welcome others to join their fun as their circle expands and new friends of different abilities, ages, genders, races. Really think about it, we'll get there. They join together in a park. So this one's focused on social and emotional learning, and Annie's sparse text and Hannah Chaw's warm art feel both timely and timeless, if that's possible, you guys. And it offers up a perfect read aloud and engaging resource for discussing inclusion in school and at home in a positive and really non-didactic way. I think that's the thing for me these days. I see a ton of picture books that are talking about this particular theme, and I love it. But Hannah and Annie really have married this text and the art to be that non-didactic. You know, it's just, you're going to get that as part of the story, but at the core, you're just going to get this beautiful message. Now, guys, Annie herself, as we know, is pretty well positioned to write about these topics, as she's the founder of I'm Your Neighbor, which is this really cool organization based out of Portland, Maine, that promotes children's literature featuring new arrival cultures. And she's also a co-founder of the Bates College Diverse Book Finder Project, which, by the way, dear listeners and dear friends, Charlesbridge, if you haven't checked out Bates College's Diverse Book Finder Project, please do. Put that in your Google search engine right now. Circle Round demonstrates universal acceptance, teaching kids and reminding their grown-ups how easy it is to expand your group, extend yourself, and welcome new friends.
Absolutely. This is another one with a great use of color as well. As the kids meet each other and come together, you can see that everything becomes more brighter, more vibrant. I love how this emphasizes relationships with each other. Like that's what we're looking for. We're all just looking to connect, you know? So. All right. Why don't we talk about what's in your pocket, Katie?
Another way to talk about Maribel. Love it. What's in your pocket? Collecting Nature's Treasures is written by Heather Montgomery and illustrated by Maribel LaChuca. It's a collection of stories about 9 scientists who were once curious kids with pockets full of treasures, which I love because we were all kids with pockets full of treasures at some point. So I love that connection there. The author has a great history of being a master teacher. So here she brings in sort of like Bill Nye connection to science, which is just like fun and delightful. And these illustrations, I'm so glad that you put up the butterfly one. This one is so gorgeous. I can't handle it. I just love, and I love this historical figure too. I'm very excited about this book.
Yeah, there's a lot of really wonderful elements here. When you think about Heather Montgomery, this is also the same author of Bugs Don't Hug. It's just kind of taking you into the really deep parts of science and how it works without it being overwhelming. This is a great way to look into the scientific process and say, hey, you know, maybe you have a kid who keeps a lot of weird things in their pockets like bugs, but that means that they have the opportunity to stretch their minds and become a really awesome scientist. So definitely love that. Her editor, Alyssa, was so excited to have this book also because she was like, those are my kids. They're always bringing stuff inside. And it's like a wonderful way to encourage science, even if sometimes you're like, oh, but why did you bring the living creature in your pocket? So definitely very fun. Love those elements.
You know what I love about this too is you can dip in and out of this one, right? Because as Katie said, there are a ton of notable scientists that were curious kids to start too. So that's the other piece of it, right? Like curious kids often grow up to be really creative, really lovely inventors, scientists, take your pick here. But the other thing too is that the way that Heather Montgomery has layered this text is really great because you get that central narrative, right, about the little kids that are those curious creatures and that are bringing those live objects or those unique finds from outside in. But then you also get that secondary layer where you get just a little bit more factual information about the scientists we're referencing, either historically or as a contemporary person. Mm-hmm. I will say too, I've seen Heather Montgomery in action, and there is a reason she's a master teacher. When we say master teacher, she is a teacher of teachers, and she just brings science to life. And you never know, by the way, what's going to be in Heather's pocket and what she can show you and what she's talking about. But you're always going to learn something in Heather's presence. And that's what makes it so cool.
Yeah, and I think this book has almost a sort of like storytelling math element to it, in the way that it like subtly introduces concepts like observing, sorting, and classifying, and shows kids that they're sort of already doing those sciencey things. So I love that.
Yeah, that's a really, really good point, Katie.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I also think that this book is a real triumph of back matter, right? You've got these really comprehensive notes in the back about not just about more information about the scientists, but also how there's sort of rules for responsible collecting, which I think any parent who gives their kid this book will be really happy that that's there.
Mm-hmm.
Right. It's not just, maybe don't bring live worms into your bed, but like also wilderness safety stuff, like maybe don't stick your hand somewhere that you can't see because there might be something hazardous down there.
My brother probably could have used that back matter because he once brought a scorpion to school and then got in trouble. But it was a dead scorpion, but like they still didn't appreciate it. In his defense, the scorpion did attack him, so I think he was like showing it off as like I won the final battle sort of thing.
A victory.
Yeah. The final countdown.
I have faith that Heather could find all kinds of teachable moments, by the way, in Katie's brother's life.
Absolutely. We will have to tell her about that because I think she will definitely laugh. I think that's a great transition, honestly, to talk a little bit more about STEM and inventions with Flip, How the Frisbee Took Flight. This is by Margaret Moorhead, and it's great for ages 4 to 8. It just published in April and has an interesting concept that I realized I really took for granted until I read it. So for centuries, people have been flying discs for fun, from ancient Greeks to Yale students in the 1920s. But who invented the most famous flying disc of all? The Frisbee. So Flip introduces us to Fred Morrison from California. Katie, you'll like that. Whose obsession with flipping pie tins, cake pans, whatever he could get his hands on, started in 1932. This is basically his journey on how he took what truly, I'm not kidding, a pie tin and turned it into the Frisbee that we know and love today and that has started competitions. I love a picture book biography, and this is another one illustrated by Adam Gustafson. So if you've read Long-Armed Moody, which is another one he's illustrated too, he really captures this like true to life element while still making it super playful. And there's just something about this fun fact as well, because it's a fun fact book, I will tell you that. That I'm like, I want to gift it to my parents. Like, this is something that they would completely enjoy, even though it's a picture book. I feel like there's a lot of room to discuss inventions, as well as how do we come up with that idea, and then what do you have to do to make it happen? So definitely really cool. A lot of themes of ingenuity as well as perseverance, I would say.
Yeah, I really like that this has kind of the same vibe and the same playfulness that Whoosh does from our list a couple of years back from Chris Barton and Don Tate. And I love this idea of taking a childhood staple or a holiday staple, by the way. How many people do actually after the holidays go out after a big meal and do some kind of Frisbee, football, toss, what have you, right? But do you ever wonder, like, where did these things come from? And just as Whoosh explains where the Super Soaker came from, like, yeah, where the heck did the Frisbee come from? Who has this idea? And your point, Hannah, about fun facts galore in this one, spot on.
Nope, this is great. I would say it's really nice to have a book that shows the inspiration behind getting something off the ground.
Oh, look at you. Look at you go.
I was saving that one. I promise I'll end the puns there.
That gets 2 points right there. Well played, ma'am. Well played.
Use that in a real life conference yet.
Oh yeah. You got to have them in your back pocket. All right. Okay, I think we have 2 titles left that we want to talk about. Meg, do you want to kick that off with We Are Still Here?
I do want to talk about We Are Still Here. I could talk for the full hour just about We Are Still Here. So, all right, ready? Mm-hmm. Tracy Sorrell and Franny Lazek's We Are Still Here, Native American Truths Everyone Should Know, is an eye-opening and honestly powerful release from the wonderful creative team that brought us We Are Still Here, Oshali Haliga. Okay, so too often Native American history is treated as this finished chapter rather than the relevant, constant, and contemporary ever-evolving topic that it is. With Native Americans almost completely erased, you guys, from public school curriculums from 1870 onward. Let's talk about that date again for just a minute. From 1870 onward, most American history and social studies curriculums do not mention Native Americans, the indigenous people that were here from the start. Okay, so We Are Still Here presents the history we should be teaching and need to know, chronicling 12 major events from 1871 to 2007 through the clever setup of elementary school presentations from Indigenous Peoples Day. So let's see, I'm gonna try my best here to get everything into the frame. But
no worries, I'm gonna put you so there you go.
Yep. All right.
There you go. Perfect.
There we go. So we're gonna start, as you can see on the blackboard here, we're gonna start with elementary schoolers presenting various and sundry pieces of history from 1871 through 2007. And each spread here is gonna show us one of those presentations, right? And so I'm just gonna keep flipping here. Franny Lezek's colorful, vibrant, and evocative art here gives us every moment here, and we, with each child presenting one key event, and then also finishing with the refrain, "We are still here." This one comes complete with a glossary and impressive timeline here. I don't know if you guys can see that. It's just so cool. So cool. And also an author's note about why this is so necessary, but also why this is so personal for Tracy as a citizen of both the Cherokee tribe and of the US, right? So this one's only been out about 2 weeks and it's already got multiple stars to its credit, and the praise just keeps on coming. SLJ calls it meticulously researched and an essential purchase, say that 3 times fast. And I personally love Kirkus's comments that it's an emphatic, triumphant declaration that we are still here.
I love this title and I love Tracy. I love that it also lends itself so easily to classroom activities. I could just see a teacher, an educator saying like, okay, each group take one of these like 14, and that would just be a really great way to learn these things.
Mm-hmm. Something we heard a lot too for their first picture book, We Are Grateful, Otsli Haliga, is that many people were using it in classrooms, not just for elementary schoolers, but for middle grade and high schoolers. So I think this companion, we can call it, is a really great way to keep moving that forward. It helps to kind of get an overview of these topics while also giving you a chance to explore deeper. And that timeline is a feat. It's a really, honestly, phenomenal piece of work, especially for anyone researching those time periods too. It's just a good way to start. Listen, picture books won Jeopardy. You know what I mean? There's like a lot of really great information you can get in nonfiction picture books. In particular, too, we're talking about a period of time that the U.S. ignores. And I think that's a really great way to start putting that in the public eye to say that, again, right? We are still here. It's there in the title. This is something that needs to be talked about.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's an incredible resource. And I mean, one of the other things that I absolutely love about this book is not just that the text is so accessible and so, you know, it looks at some very difficult and painful parts of history that still deeply affect people to this day, but it looks at them in a way like Branches of Hope that doesn't like crush the spirit. Mm-hmm. Right. It's very honest about what happened, but it's also very age appropriate, I would say. And it's also really incredibly enriched by Franny Lezek's art. If you just, I mean, I could spend hours just looking at one of the spreads and noticing new details, right? It's just, they're very, some of them are set in the present day, some of them are set historically, and they're just full of information that I think really enriches the experience of reading this book.
And I think we should shout out to the research that both Franny and Tracy did, right? Like, this is the thing. It was a collaborative process from start to finish with these two wonderful, creative, talented women. And it just shows in every inch and every word picked and printed on this particular title.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I think we only have one more left. I'm kind of sad. Oh. Colette, would you bring it home with Worst Case Colin, please?
Oh, wrapping it all up. All right, Worst Case Colin. This is an incredible novel in verse from Rebecca Cabrera. Now, when 12-year-old Colin's mother dies, he is ready for anything to go wrong at a moment's notice. He fills this notebook that he carries around with him everywhere with these really detailed disaster plans for everything from avalanches to riptides to halitosis, you know, normal middle school hazards. Unfortunately, there is no guidebook on what to do when your dad starts hoarding. So as his home life gets increasingly messy and more dangerous, and as his relationship with his father becomes more strained, he's just another kid trying to survive middle school, and he's trying his damnedest not to let any of his friends know that anything is wrong. Right. On top of dealing with bullies at school and all of the other hazards that occur in middle school hallways. So, I mean, and I think the real sort of climax of the book comes when, you know, he realizes that sometimes you just have to be vulnerable even when everything is spinning out of your control.
Yes, that's a beautiful way to put it, Colette. I think that's actually why the format lends itself so well. There's something about a novel in verse that really just resonates. It gives you the opportunity to not just like follow a story, but to find kind of a way to like put yourself in the character's shoes, and it doesn't feel forced. It just kind of carries you along. You really have a great understanding of what Colin's going through, and it's a fast read too. But yeah, I really enjoyed this novel. I love a middle grade novel with an edge, you know, and I think this has edge.
And you know, and I just don't know how Rebecca did it, but it's got this edge, but this vulnerability to it too, right? So you have both the hard edges and the soft lines for Colin, and talking from start to finish. And coming out in September, by the way, and we do have digital arcs available.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, 100%. I just want to touch real quick also on the forms of the poetry too, because there's free verse, but there's also some really incredible concrete poems woven in there, which I think is just sort of an extra layer of richness and complexity. And I mean, I think one of the strengths of verse as a form for a novel is that, you know, there are things that you can say in verse, and there are things you can, like, there's sort of a confessional aspect to it, right? There's things you can say in verse that you just can't say in prose. Right. It doesn't ring true in the way that it rings true in verse. And I mean, I think that's so also really, really cleverly interwoven with some of the themes in this book too, right? Because I mean, part of the issue is that Colin just can't admit to anyone outside his household that things are terribly wrong and is starting to become unsafe.
Absolutely. Wow. What a way to end.
I know, right? Cheers to that.
There you go. I mean, listen.
Yeah, it's intense, but I think there are moments of comedy and lightheartedness. And Katie, another incident with a scorpion at school that is perhaps not ideal.
These are all true to life stories, folks. Like, this is what I'm telling you. But yeah, I really think we have it all here. And honestly, I think that's a great place to stop. So number one, thanks so much to my team for joining me today. This was a lovely chat. I cannot wait to do this in person. It will be like maybe even more fun. And I had a lot of fun doing this. And thank you to our viewers for joining us today. Don't forget to enter the giveaway in the description box below. Couple of things before you leave us. Make sure that you check out our YouTube channel at the end of the week for a new series with our wonderful marketing associate, Jordan Standridge, called A Case Study. He'll be chatting with Kidlit creators about what makes up their bookcase, and it is so much fun. I'm working like the behind the scenes tech aspect of it, and I'm having a blast, and I am just watching. But first up will be Rajani Laraka, who is of Bracelets for Venus Brothers, which we chatted about a little bit earlier, and what are her favorite books and what's on her bookshelf, as well as who her favorite indie bookstores are. So definitely don't want to miss that. Don't forget to check us out on our socials as well, and head over to our website to sign up for our newsletter. We'll be releasing more content like this with live streams, author chats, book trailers, downloadables. We have everything. So definitely stay tuned. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we will see you soon. Bye, everybody.